So Amy and I have cruised the Mediterranean before with Holland American. We hit quite a few stops along the Mediterranean itself and also in the Adriatic. And I've been to a number of countries in and around the Mediterranean by land as well. So I've seen a lot in that part of the world, but somewhere I hadn't been was Turkey, and specifically the city of Istanbul. And that's one of the main reasons we chose this last itinerary, is because it had the 2 days in Istanbul. And I was very excited for that particular part of the trip, and it did not disappoint. Istanbul is absolutely incredible. I mean, it begins with the fact that it's partially in Asia and partially in Europe. That alone makes it intriguing. And when you look at the history of both Constantinople, then becoming Istanbul, the number of different dynasties and empires that have ruled there, the ongoing conflicts in that particular region between the Turks, the Byzantines, the Romans, the Greeks, all of that is apparent when you walk the city of Istanbul. You can see the different forms of architecture. The one thing that strikes you immediately is that you see the temples everywhere. It amazed me how close two particular temples can be, right? It's actually designed in such a way that, given the Muslim prayer schedule, where they pray a number of times during the day, there are so many different temples that it's designed in such a way that no matter where you are, you can make it to a temple to pray if you're in Istanbul. You could be in transit, guaranteed there's going to be a temple within a couple of minutes of you. So that's something that's very striking. And of course, those buildings themselves, the architecture is amazing. So when you see them absolutely everywhere, it really creates its own sort of landscape of the city.
So our most important port on this last cruise was definitely Istanbul. We were there for 2 nights, which made this experience even more spectacular. But most thing I loved about Istanbul was the shopping. Now, we went to the Grand Bazaar, which is just mind-blowing and freaking huge. And we also went to the Spice Bazaar. Out of the two, I would say the Grand Bazaar is way more fun for like jewelry shopping. But the Spice Bazaar had to be my favorite. I work in the food business, so seeing all the spices, the Turkish delight. To be fair, I'm not a Turkish delight fan. At least I wasn't until I actually went to Istanbul and tried, 75 flavors of Turkish delight, and I'm a huge fan of it now. If you don't have that much time in Istanbul, I definitely recommend seeing at least the Spice Bazaar. It's like one straight shot to the back, so you can't get lost. If you go to the Grand Bazaar, you could probably be there, I would say a week, most likely a month, and probably not see everything. It's ginormous, to say the least. We made it from one side to the other and then came back and got lost on where we were, and we thought it was just a straight shot back and forth. Did not happen that way. But both are spectacular to see. If you're short on time, see the Spice Bazaar. If you have a lot of time, then go see the Grand Bazaar. But try and see both if you have the opportunity.
So we did book one tour while we were in Istanbul, and that, of course, was the Bosphorus Strait tour that I had mentioned. And we did not book it through the ship. We actually booked it through booking.com because we found it for like a third of the price that Cunard had it for. Pays to do your research. But we were worried about actually getting to the embarkation point of that particular cruise, because we know through our research that Istanbul is a pretty packed and busy city, and we were going to have to get there on our own. But what we found out very quickly is that the main sort of tram that goes through Istanbul is a fantastic way to get to pretty much any of the sites you want to see. It is a convenient, fast, and reliable way of getting there. We used the tram a number of times in our couple of days. Once we used it the first time, we realized, oh, this is a godsend, right? This is perfect for getting to anywhere we're going. And it has stops that are specifically selected to get you to a lot of the different sites. Now, there are a couple of things that are sort of outside of the city that you would have to take maybe a cab to get to, or actually book a tour to get to easily. But for what we wanted to see, which was get to the embarkation point for the cruise, which was very easy. The Spice Bazaar, which quite literally has a stop maybe 3 minutes walk from it. The Grand Bazaar, same thing. You get off at, there's a couple of stops actually, depending on where you want to enter the Grand Bazaar, but we found one that has a straight shot into one of the main entrances. Again, only a couple of minutes away. So using that tram, which by the way, you require a purchase of a card for, which is sold at, looked like any of the stops you can get in on or off at. And that one card we used for all of us, right? It wasn't like we all bought a card. We bought one card, we loaded it with, I think, like 15 trips or whatever, and we just continuously tapped it, which would not have been the case here in Toronto. In Toronto, you have the option of using what's called our Presto card. It's a similar idea to what they had there in Istanbul, but when it's been tapped, it can't be tapped again right away. So it was simple. It really was. And it's actually a great way to see the city. You could just tap on and ride all the way around, and you're going to see a lot of the major sites very inexpensively. It was a cheap way to travel. We did not use a cab while we were there. That was the only method of transit we took because we quickly realized how convenient and easy it was. And unfortunately, there isn't a stop right outside the cruise port. There isn't one there. They have a platform, I assume will eventually be a stop, because the new Istanbul cruise port is exactly that. It's very new. We were, one of the first few ships to be there, to be honest. They were still having issues with their sort of check-in, check-out system getting to and from the ship. It never really worked quite right because they're still ironing out the bugs, but it looks like they're going to have a platform right outside it. As of the time we were there, which was in May, you exited the cruise port and then essentially you turned left and had to walk maybe 2-3 minutes to get to the first actual platform that was available. Again, wasn't difficult. And that particular area, it is busy, of course, because the cruise port being there and because the cruise port's attached to this major outdoor plaza. But there's also a couple of parks and the like there, so you actually have more room to move, so to speak, to get to the first platform to get on the main tram. So getting around Istanbul was really quite easy and enjoyable.
Now, for those of you that like a little bit more of a high-end shopping experience and maybe don't want to travel to the Grand Bazaar and deal with all those crowds, outside of the Istanbul port, they built this beautiful shopping area where it has all the high-end brands, restaurants, cafes, so you can literally spend the day.
So if you've got an opportunity, definitely take it. If you see a itinerary on a cruise in the Mediterranean and it doesn't include Turkey and specifically Istanbul, if it doesn't include that, maybe keep looking, because it's not hard for a cruise line to add it to anything that covers Italy and Greece. It's not hard to have a stop in Turkey. If you're cruising the Adriatic, it may add a little bit to it, but it's worth it, right? We've cruised the Adriatic, and having a stop in Istanbul would have made it that much better, to be honest. So consider that if you're considering cruising in the Mediterranean. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please help us grow. We're trying to improve the videos. I hope you've noticed that we've done a good job at improving the videos. If you think we have, let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate the pat on the back. I pat myself all too often. That sounds inappropriate. I should probably rethink the way I say that, but if you haven't yet, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.